Hi, thank you. Welcome to the NASEP workshop. We will be going over scholarships today. We have a couple of guest speakers and we have student staff guest speakers, and we are lucky to have Rudy Mccormick here, who will be talking also at the end about scholarships. A couple of items to note is that our closing banquet will be May 7th about noon. Phoenix time, so you might want to mark your calendars for that. A flyer will be sent out, circulating, so you can save the date. We have one more workshop before we close the workshop sessions for NASEP, and I think that is it for announcements. And Rudy, Carol, did I miss anything? No? All right, so then let me introduce you to Kiara Begay and Makayla Begay. They will be doing the presentation on scholarships, how to apply for them, and what to do to get the essays going and some of their academic journeys through scholarship. So I would like to invite you to give a warm welcome to Kiara and Makayla. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Kiara Begay. I come from the Santa Fe district of the Thonotlam Nation, and I am a third year majoring in microbiology and minoring in pharmaceutical sciences. And me and Makayla, undergrad student staff, will be presenting on the basics of scholarship. Okay, so scholarship basics, we'll be going over the basics of how to apply and what's available. So me and Makayla compiled a list of annual scholarships that students should be looking for. And don't mind the numbers, they're not of like any importance or like significance. But one of them that students should be looking out for before the semester starts, before each semester starts, are tribal scholarships that are specific to the tribe you're enrolled in. For example, mine is Lenape, and then others could be Navajo or any of the tribes that they're enrolled in. And then also a huge one is Cobell Scholarship, then the American Indian Services, and also the university that you're a part of. They may have specific scholarship portals that you'll be able to kind of like apply or answer a questionnaire that the scholarship or the university may offer to match you with different scholarships. Either those that are associated with the university or external scholarships that are provided outside of university services. And then the American Indian Science and Engineering Society that Makayla will be going over later, as well as the American Indian Graduate Center. So both the ACES and American Indian Graduate Center are websites that have a lot more resources to other scholarships that students should also be looking out for and also be looking at as a primary resource for scholarships. Then going on to FAFSA, or the free application for federal student aid, is basically kind of similar to like a questionnaire, but it informs schools to see what you're eligible for, either federal aid, subsidized loans, or unsubsidized loans. Different scholarships. This could also apply for the scholarship portals, the university scholarship portals, federal work study, as well as your student aid report, which you may need for your FNA, which we'll be talking about in a bit, for your tribal scholarships, your financial need analysis, which is your FNA form, as well as on-campus jobs, which relate to your federal work study. Then going into specifics for your tribal scholarship, I know my tribal scholarship, as well as Navajo, need an FNA to be turned into, as in like the student needs to turn it into the university financial aid office. And then from there, the financial aid office fills out all of like your enrollment status as a student, your expenses, which include your tuition, your books, your room and board, and also any awards or resources that you may have been offered, which could include your unsubsidized and subsidized loans. And from there, as soon as you turn in this F&A form to the scholarship or the University Financial Aid Office, they practically take over all of the number parts of filling out enrollment status, expenses, and then awards and resources for you. And they're responsible for turning it into the tribal scholarship office. So there may be a deadline where your F&A or your tribal scholarship has a deadline. You would want to make sure that your F&A is turned into your own University Financial Aid Office in time for the financial aid office to mail it or email it to your tribal scholarship office. So it's a whole process, and definitely take note that you need to turn in your F&A form in time for things to get processed, like for your tuition to get mailed out to you or to get mailed to the university. So for the F&A, kind of as a note that I put in the bottom left down here, is that for your F&A, your FAFSA needs to be turned in. So even if you may not get anything for FAFSA, if you don't qualify for different federal aid, you would still need to apply to FAFSA and fill out the form to be able to have the university fill out your F&A form. So that's definitely something to take note of.
Hello guys, my name is Makayla Begay. I'm a sophomore here at U of A. I'm gonna be going over the scholarship supporting documents. Well, it says here the letter of recommendation. It could be all of the documents that apply to the scholarships you're applying to, and the statement of purpose. The resume, there are I believe when you are accepted into U of A, there are think tanks. They could help you with your resume, provide feedback, and just make sure your resume is very oriented to the scholarship. And Kiara, can you go to the next slide? Okay, the American Indian Science. As an incoming freshman, the ACES program is a great resource for students interested in creating a pathway in STEM fields. I'm a member of the ACES program, and I recently applied to the Leadership Summit Scholarship. I believe it will be this summer for the ACES Leadership Conference. And it's a really good program. I also previously went to a ACES regional conference in Phoenix, and I learned about new resources and internships from IBM and NASA. Was really cool. And yeah, and as an incoming freshman, you are able to apply or to join the ACES, be a member of the ACES program. And
Well, then that would be it. So if anyone has any questions regarding I guess scholarship basics, then you can go ahead and either put them in the chat or ask out loud.
I have a question. So after having applied to different scholarships in your capacity as undergraduate students, do you have any recommendations for students in terms of drafting any of those required documents that you talked about before, like the personal statements or the references? I know that reference requests. I know Makayla talked about the think tank, which is a great tool for students who are looking to have someone like review their different written things like resumes and stuff like that. And I'm sure whatever university the high school students decide to apply to, that they'll have something similar. But are there any other recommendations that you have?
Yeah, let me go back to this slide. So for the supporting documents, these are basically like the common documents that scholarships are wanting to have from, I guess, like a possible recipient. So having a statement of purpose, either that being like a draft of what you want to do outside of school or as soon as you graduate, or even your academic goals, it would be good to have as a draft to be able to kind of reference in case multiple scholarships ask, like, what are you looking forward to, I guess, like, what are you looking forward after graduation, or what are you planning to do as soon as if you receive this funding? So similar to like the NASEP application, definitely have those drafts to be able to kind of reference back for the multiple scholarships that ask for similar essays.
So I have a question.
Or I was gonna
Go ahead.
Makayla, and I'll kind of loop around here.
All right. My question was, how many days in advance should you ask your professor or the person you're getting a recommendation from for a letter of recommendation? How many days before the date do you usually ask? Or would you recommend?
So if you know the person really well, I think the latest you should ask someone is probably a week, but that's if you know them relatively well. But if it's like a professor that you may like have gone to office hours, maybe like a couple times, or someone you're like a teacher's assistant for, I would say give them at least 2 weeks, because you'll be asking them when they also have other things to do. So a week is definitely too soon for, I guess, anyone. But if you're kind of like crunched on a deadline and like you make like last minute decisions, and the week is like the latest, but I would give them preferably maybe a month or a month and a half or 2 weeks in advance if you need one by a certain deadline.
Thank you.
I was gonna just mention, just as we were, Kiara, as you were mentioning the application essay, or that's kind of that statement of purpose, there was a staff member in the office who kind of sometimes would boil it down, and it depends, because it's as this says here, like your application essay, sometimes there's specific questions, very specific questions, so you want to make sure you're answering that question right. But when it comes to the statement of purpose, or like, what are your career and academic goals? I remember that there was a staff person that talked about kind of that it's talking about where you've been, where you're at right now, and then kind of where you're going. and thinking about like our educational or even our life path sometimes, because there could be things that kind of have impacted us in our life journey, and how that might and those life events could potentially kind of impact, where you're going in terms of your academic and career goals. So just thought I would mention that sometimes if students are thinking like, well, what's that statement of purpose supposed to be about? That's one way that I thought was really helpful to hear from somebody else, is this kind of question of like, where have I been? Where am I at now? And kind of where do I hope to be going? So just mention that if that's helpful.
I have a question. I was wondering, how do you find like any specific scholarship? Like, are there different apps that you would recommend using, or different websites, or anything like that?
So something I would mention is that we always tell people never pay for a scholarship search. Oftentimes, or I would hope that if you did pay for a scholarship search, that they would bring scholarship opportunities in front of you. But then you still have to do all that work. You still have to kind of create your statement of purpose. You're going to need to fill out kind of any application forms. So it's just really important to know that, to not pay for somebody else to do a scholarship search for you. Oftentimes, I think meeting with your high school counselors, they can give you some ideas of scholarships that may be available to you, where they've oftentimes pointed former students to apply. So those are just a couple of recommendations. And I'm also going to look up briefly, it'll take me a moment to make sure that I'm giving you the correct resource. But I believe there's a free scholarship search engine that I can recommend for students who are coming into the University of Arizona and that are admitted to the University of Arizona. Right as you're admitted, you're given access to something called Scholarships Universe. And Scholarships Universe allows you to kind of create a profile where you tell a little bit about who you are. You answer all these kind of questions. And then if there's scholarships that would apply to you, they'll go ahead and send you emails about those scholarships, and then you'll apply. So again, that's a free scholarship search engine. It's open to admitted students to the University of Arizona. But there's other free scholarship search options, and I'm going to kind of go to find at least one other option for folks in just a second.
So any last questions for Kiara or Makayla? So if there's not, I would like to introduce Katie Baldwin, who is going to talk about her experience and her the Gilman Scholarship. So let's welcome Katie to the workshop. Thank you for coming, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Natalia, for that introduction. And I just want to reiterate all the helpful tips that Kiara and Makayla gave. Like, this is how I landed the scholarship I'm about to tell you about. So yeah, really important information. Give me just a quick second to set up here my screen sharing. I also want to apologize in advance because I'm just a student, so I don't have like a nice office. So I'm just in a coffee shop, so it might get a little bit loud. But we will persevere. Okay, so my name is Katie Baldwin. I feel like this picture of me is a little bit catfishy because I don't look anything like that at the moment, but I'm just a student, so I got other things on my mind. But yeah, I'm a senior at the University of Arizona, and I am in biological sciences. Specifically, I'm majoring in biochemistry, molecular and cellular biology, and I have a minor in critical ages and a minor in government and public policy. it was a process of gathering all these different areas of interest. I definitely didn't start my freshman year in all of these programs. So I get a lot of people who are like, wow, that's so overwhelming. But really, once you like learn more about yourself, you learn more about your capabilities, you learn what you're interested in, and then these programs kind of find you. So I'm excited to share a little bit more about my experience in that. I also am excited to share about, or I've also am involved in other things, and I'm excited to share about my work at the Sonoran Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, which is exciting because we're about to launch the very first Native Center for Disabilities like this month. It's the first one in the United States. So if you want any more information about that, shoot me an email after. In my last slide, I have my email address, so I can send you more information about that. I'm also interning at Sites Biotechnologies, which is a virtual international internship. And that's coordinated with the Gilman Scholarship. So I'll get more into that as well. I am the Health Initiative for Women in Medicine and Science, which is a club at the University of Arizona. And then I founded and I'm president of the Queer Christian Initiative, also a student organization at the University of Arizona. All right, so a little bit more about how I got involved in all of these things. So I went to high school in Thatcher High School. It's a small town in Arizona. Some of y'all may be familiar with it. It's on the eastern side of the state. And when I was in high school, I was good at science. I enjoyed science, but I didn't really see a future for myself in science. I think a lot of that might have been that I didn't really, there's the loud noises. Sorry about that. I didn't really see myself in any of the scientists around me. All my teachers in high school who were scientists, my science teachers were male, and representation matters a lot. So I'm really excited that y'all have a whole organization of people from similar backgrounds, other people from tribal nations who are representing people in STEM. I think that's really awesome and really important. So as a freshman, I decided to major in neuroscience because I had like one section of one class that I thought was really interesting, and it was about neuroscience. And I didn't really know what else I wanted to do, so I just jumped into that. I did my whole freshman year in that major, neuroscience and cognitive science, that's a specific major. And I even joined a lab for it. And my lab experience was really valuable because it taught me what I didn't want to do for the rest of my life. I did not really like working in a lab setting, and really I didn't find the stuff I was studying very interesting. So this was a 180 for me. That summer following that lab experience, I took a chemistry class that I really jived with. So I decided to change my entire major over to biochemistry. And that was a much better fit. And biochemistry kind of led to molecular and cellular biology. They're very similar paths. But as I was able to take more general education classes and be involved in different things, I realized that I really liked studying languages and I really liked learning about politics. So I added those minors in as well. And I'm really glad about my experience at U of A because I have been exposed to a lot of different organizations, and it's been really fun and awesome, and I love to answer any questions that you have about that. So yeah, a little bit about the other things I've been involved in, particularly this internship with Sites Biotechnology. This is an internship I started last fall, and I've continued throughout this semester as well. And yeah, I am also interning in Washington, D.C. this summer. So that's kind of like the future goals that I have. But yeah, so going on about my internship with Sites Biotechnology, because it's kind of a unique one for most students. Most students don't have an internship opportunity in a STEM field. So this is something I really wanted to share with other STEM students. So as Natalia was saying, I am a recipient of the Gilman Scholarship. I was originally planning to study abroad in Switzerland last summer due to my minor in government and public policy. And so I was looking for ways to fund this because I don't come from a super privileged background. I am a student with financial need, so I really needed the extra money to get me into that program. Unfortunately, it was canceled anyway, so I wasn't able to go to Switzerland, but I did end up finding the Gilman Scholarship, which is a nationally competitive scholarship for international programs. So it's study abroad, it could be an internship abroad, it can be a virtual internship abroad, or a virtual international internship. So I'm going to stop screen sharing for a quick second to share more about the Gilman Scholarship. I have another handout here. So I'm resharing that. Okay, so this is their official flyer, the Gilman Scholarship. I think it's better if I make it smaller. Let me see here. Give me a second. Can you see the whole page when I do that? Kind of? Okay, I'll make it bigger. Okay. So the Gilman International Scholarship, I was always saying, is a scholarship specifically for international programs. It is federally funded. That means that you're competing against a bunch of students from a bunch of different schools, which can be really daunting. And honestly, I wasn't really interested in applying for the scholarship. But if you go to a organization or a university that serves minority communities, you actually get a boost in your application process. So University of Arizona is a Hispanic serving organization or a university. And so I think that definitely contributed to my being able to receive the scholarship. So I do want to put in a plug for the FAFSA application as well, what Kiara mentioned, because that's what's going to qualify you for this scholarship. So a student who completes the FAFSA, so that's the first step, and then qualifies for the federal Pell Grant, they're the only people who can apply for this scholarship. So that even further narrows down the field of who can apply for it. And then the only part of the application is essays. So you're not going to have letter of recommendation, you're not going to have resume, which are important for other scholarship applications. But this one in particular, it's pretty much only the statement, the purpose statement, but it has it broken down into different sections. And like Kiara was saying, I personally took advantage of the Writing Center at University of Arizona. That was really helpful for me to have a really cohesive narrative of kind of what Rudy was saying as well. You want to be able to say who you were in the past, who you are in the present, and how this opportunity would affect your future. So that was really helpful to be able to get a second set of eyes on my application, kind of telling me where I can improve it, where I can strengthen it, and how I can best leverage myself. I'm a type of person who I don't actually do very well at like hyping myself up to really put my best foot forward. I think that's a lot of what a lot of people struggle with. Maybe I don't know if it's confidence or just social pressures to not convey myself in that way, but it was helpful to have other people help me construct those arguments. So so that's a little bit about the Gilman Scholarship that I was able to get. I ended up getting the maximum amount for it, which was awesome because I switched my program over to a virtual program, meaning that my program itself was a lot less because I didn't have to travel abroad. I didn't have to live there, have living expenses or anything. So it ended up only being $1,000 program. And the scholarship was $5,000. So I pocketed $4,000. So just another plug for the scholarship because it could give you free cash in the end that you can just use however you need to further your educational career. And there's no stipulations on it. The last thing I want to share about the Gilman Scholarship, if you receive it, you have the opportunity to do a follow-on project in which you promote the scholarship to other students. So that's what I'm here doing now, promoting it to other students in STEM. So that's a little bit about that. So with the Gilman Scholarship, I'm going to go back to my slides real quick. With the Gilman Scholarship, I was able to complete this internship with Sites Biotechnology, which is a program through the study abroad department at the University of Arizona. I applied for the Institute for American Universities in Barcelona, and then they set me up with a communications internship with this company. I really loved doing this internship because I wasn't in a lab, and I was really nervous about going into my major because I knew I didn't like lab experience, but lab experience was required. So this experience allowed me to take my internship credits and apply them for my lab credits. So it's just another way to customize your academic experience. That way you get the best fit for you. You don't have to do what everybody else does. You can customize it to what fits for you. And that's kind of what I want to mention here. Some of the things I've been able to learn as a student at University of Arizona. I'm about 4 weeks out from graduating, so there are a few things that I've learned that I just want to share with y'all. So it's okay not to be great at everything. Like I said, I wasn't great at my lab my first year, and I didn't love it, and I especially wasn't great at physics. I failed my first exam and I was really scared. But if you keep a growth mindset and don't let your failures determine what your future will be, but rather understand that if you put a little more effort in, if you try a little bit more to learn, you can still grow. I ended up doing fine in physics, but that was a scary part of my academics, is failing that test. And like I said, you can customize your path. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. Also, there are systems in place to help you. There's, like we've already mentioned, there's the Writing Center. There's different organizations on campus that are literally built to help you guys. I was particularly influenced by mentoring. I had a mentor in my freshman year. I've been able to mentor for others. And now that I'm about to graduate, I have an alumni mentor who is guiding me through graduation. So I really put a plug in for finding mentoring organizations. It can be a big help and help you in networking as well for your future career. Also, don't be afraid to try out new things, change your major, add a couple minors, add an internship. Hopefully my experience has shown you that you can diversify your undergraduate career. And I would say invest in the things you love. As much as I appreciate science and I like studying it, I get very burnt out if all I'm doing every day is studying science. And I really needed something like my critical languages or my government and public policy, in which I can engage different parts of my interests. And last thing, college is hard. I don't want it to make it sound like just because I am doing so many things that it's been an easy time or anything like that. It is hard, but the biggest and coolest thing that I've learned about myself is that I can grow to the challenge. And that even though it is hard, my capacity grows. And I can face it head on. So thank you all for listening to my spiel. I do want to entertain any questions that y'all might have. And here's my email if you have any questions about the scholarship, about the Native Center for Disabilities that I mentioned at the beginning, or anything like that. And even if you have questions about the University of Arizona, I'd love to help you find either the person to answer that question, or maybe I can answer it myself. So yeah, any questions?
Katie,
When is this?
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, Rudy. You go ahead this time.
All right. So, Katie, I didn't know if you might kind of speak to, so I think sometimes when you're taking on that first scholarship, it can kind of, that's definitely kind of a task. But then as I don't know if you could kind of talk to how that work is then different when you start to apply for your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth.
Yeah, for sure. That's an important thing to address as well, because the Gilman scholarship wasn't the first scholarship I applied to. And honestly, my first applications were probably not that great because I hadn't learned the skills in order to build a really good application. So I think that goes back to what Kiara was saying as well, that you want to be able to have a good, very generic statement of purpose that you can then customize to different applications. That will make it a lot easier. It is hard to make that first purpose statement. So reach out to professors who you trust, to mentors. I put a plug in for mentoring as well. Those are people who've been in your shoes. And reach out to the writing centers. If you're not a strong writer, that can really help. Also, sometimes it's nice to have outward perspectives to tell you your strengths. So reach out to people you trust, your parents, your friends who know you and love you and want you to succeed, and they can help you identify your strengths and identify ways that you've already used your strengths that you can then put back into your resume writing and application writing. Did that address your question? Do you have any follow-ups?
No, I think that's great. Just kind of that sense of once you apply to those first few scholarships, that it does become easier, and then that's where you, I think, get to the place of hearing from some students that they apply for so many different scholarships, because there's some students that will kind of dedicate time to it and put in that effort, but they learn from the process, and that it is something that you're able to almost replicate, as has been mentioned, to have a general statement, specify it for a scholarship, submit it, call upon people who have already written letters of recommendation so that they're not starting from the beginning. So oftentimes I think another point is to make sure that you as an individual are saving your copies of your personal statements. And as you ask your references, you might tell them that you will likely come back to them for more recommendations. And if they don't mind being able to save your recommendation on file, that will be helpful to you as well.
Yeah, that's perfect advice.
Katie, can you tell us when a good time to start applying for the scholarship is? Is it during the spring? Is it during the summer? And what time period is it usually they're accepting?
Yeah, so they have 2 applications specifically for Gilman Scholarship. They have 2 applications a year. So if you're planning to study abroad in the summer or the fall, you want to make sure you sign up or you apply for the spring application, which closes at the beginning of March. If you're planning to study abroad in the winter or the spring semester, you want to apply by the fall application, which closes in October. So it is really important to keep on top of your scheduling to make sure that you're getting everything done in by the deadline. One thing I found with the Gilman Scholarship is that the people are really nice, which was surprising to me because they're a national organization, but they were super quick to get back to me if I had any questions about the application or about the scholarship itself. And they even ended up extending the deadline, which is rare, so don't count on that. But sometimes there are little silver linings that will help you out too. So
Thank you.
sure.
Any other?
Do you get to choose where you go for the Gilman scholarship?
Yeah, you do, which is so awesome. So there are some like qualifying things. So you have to make sure if it's in the summer or the winter, it has to be 2 weeks long. If it's in I think if it's in the school year, it has to be 4 weeks long. I'm gonna send the flyer to Natalia and the website. That way they can pass it along to you guys because I'm sure that they have your contact info. So, but yeah, it's really awesome because you can apply it to almost any study abroad in any place as long as they are within the travel advisory limits. So our State Department of the United States will give like numbers that represent how safe it is to travel to other countries. So as long as they're within like the safe numbers, you can travel there. So over the past couple of years, a lot of countries haven't been safe due to COVID, but luckily we're kind of getting to a horizon that's a little bit safer for COVID. So a lot of countries are opening up. So I think by the time if you were to apply for it, you could travel almost anywhere, which is so cool. Thanks for the question.
Are there any other questions? And I think to Katie's point about where you can choose where you want to go, that there are like study abroad departments within different universities. And so if there's something that you want to go that's a part of the university study abroad or a different program, then you can select that, apply for it, and then apply for the Gilman Scholarship to be able to get funding for that specific trip. How did you find the program that you ended up doing, Katie?
Yeah, it was through the university study abroad department. So it was a program they had already outlined. So yeah, you don't have to customize your own program a lot of the times. A lot of times they'll have programs outlined that you can just kind of adopt. Right, thanks for listening to my my spiel. If you have questions, shoot me an email.
Katie,
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thank you so much for kind of giving of your time and sharing of your knowledge and your experience. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
So then next on the agenda will be, well, she got off real fast. will be Rudy McCormick. He will be talking about the Marsha Morgan scholarship. Yes.
I'm going to interject really quick, Rudy.
Okay.
No
So
problem.
also speaking about the Gilman scholarship, I received the Gilman scholarship during my undergraduate career, and I was awarded the $5,000 to be able to use towards a program that I selected from the University of Arizona Study Abroad program. And so the one I selected was called the Mediterranean Health and Diet. So I was able to, it was part of the nutritional sciences department, but I was able to connect it to my public health career because the things that we were learning about was about how food and the things that make up the food can have preventative qualities for different chronic diseases. So of course, there's different studies about how having diets that are within like the Mediterranean health diet can be beneficial to health. And so it was a great experience. And so I think that it's something that you all should definitely take advantage of. And I appreciate that Katie was able to present it all to you. I think big things that the Gilman also focuses on is like diversity. So they really focus on people who don't normally study abroad. And so if you think of the usual demographic, it's usually not minority students, and it's not usually male students, and usually not people who are studying the sciences. And so if the fact that you all are Native is something that you can highlight within your programs, if you are in an area that's studying STEM, that's not usually what people go abroad for. If they're going for like languages or history, like those sorts of things are more common with study abroad. So if you're studying STEM and the sciences, then that's unusual. And so it's appealing to the Gilman Scholarship. Also, the places where you decide to travel are different because a lot of people who study abroad end up going to Europe for their experiences. So if you're going to places that people don't normally go, like South America or other places that are not normally frequented, then that's also something that the Gilman Scholarship looks at. Again, it's within the safety guidelines. So that also has to be part of the decision that's made. But it's important that, like, I express this because you all stand out and your interests are so varied that it's something that you all should definitely take advantage of if given the opportunity. So in addition to any questions that you might have for Katie, you can also ask me. I'm sure she is more aware of any changes that may have arisen because I did it a long time ago. So, but in terms of experience and stuff or anything, you may also ask me as well. But go ahead, Rudy, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Carol. Great information. And, again, earlier we said kind of who can you ask about these scholarships? We mentioned, you could ask teachers. Sometimes teachers may not be as connected to scholarship opportunities, but you never know. They may know of scholarships that other students have applied for. Counselors oftentimes are great at having some resources. And then in the chat, I'm going to put like a bunch of websites here. And so my apologies, and hopefully it's not a bad thing that I'm sharing these with you. What I would say to you is that these are websites that I've used and trusted in the past. What I'm always afraid of is, does somebody get a hold of it, kind of buy out this website, and all of a sudden, are they suddenly charging students? So again, I'll give that big message. If they're charging for scholarship searches, I wouldn't recommend kind of paying for that. Instead, I would look for free scholarship searches, but I think these are ones that I've tried, I've recommended oftentimes. So there's one there called fastweb.com. All of these websites do something similar to what we talked about with Scholarships Universe, which is the U of A specific web search, scholarship search. These allow you to create a profile that lets the system know a little bit about you as a person. You might say there that you're interested in STEM. Somebody else might say that they're interested in the arts. It then uses that information to send certain scholarships to certain people, right? So a student that said that they were interested in STEM might get a biology opportunity. A student that the Van Gogh scholarship may not go to the STEM student, but may go to that student who kind of mentioned that they were interested in the arts. It just kind of depends. And you get some of those scholarships. So then after you've created that profile, the website will send you scholarship information. And then it's basically up to you to look at that information to see what scholarships you can apply for and decide which ones you think that you'd be most competitive for. So then I get to choose, maybe both of those scholarships end up in my mailbox. And if I'm a NASEP student and my focus is really more on the STEM side, then I might say like, okay, this STEM scholarship totally makes sense why I would apply to it. This other scholarship, not so much. So I'm not going to kind of apply for that one. So you get to still kind of decide how you're going to spend your time. But you do want to put time into the process, because again, that time that you put into the process is time that's rewarded when you do get awarded a scholarship. And it's not going to be 100%. You know, that's not my experience, at least. I've applied for some scholarships and I haven't received those, some of those. And then I've applied for others and I have received those. You know, Carol just shared receiving a $5,000 scholarship. I'm not even going to do the math, but if I was to even spend 20 hours on that scholarship, at the fact that she received $5,000, it's a relatively good investment of my time for 20 hours even. And yet, you know, to receive $5,000, that's great. So, so just remembering that. Here, there's also a scholarships.collegeboard.org. So College Board is the company that puts together the SAT test, but they also try to help students and families kind of plan for college. And so that scholarships.collegeboard.org site, I believe, is a free scholarship search engine that you can kind of create an account for. They also they do this thing that's pretty recent where all you have to do is say, kind of go into the system and say what your top 6 schools are, I think. And then they take all the students across the country that take on that action and they do a random drawing and they give those students scholarships. And then there's like a second step. So after you do your top 6, they might kind of ask you to do your top 3. And the students who do that, then they'll kind of put them into this drawing and some of those students will receive scholarships. So that's pretty cool. There is this other scholarship search engine that's called capex.com/scholarships. And that one used to be something called College Greenlight. The name has changed, but it used to be College Greenlight. Again, it's a free scholarship search engine. You'll see the next one, which is collegefund.org. Collegefund.org, I put in there because if I'm not mistaken, let me see as I pull it up on my phone here. That one is a list put together by the American Indian College Fund. So part of what you might do is kind of look at what identities you hold true to, right? And so being Indigenous, being Native American, American Indian, might then kind of lead you to look for scholarships that have that as a qualifier or that pulls together scholarships for students from that background. For myself, I applied for scholarship. I had the opportunity to apply for the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, and that was a scholarship that ended up providing a number of years of funding for my education. And so American Indian College Fund is another organization that can help with that. And then you'll see that there's the AIGS.org site. The AIGS.org site will take you to the American Indian Graduate, and I'm forgetting what the C is for. I guess I can click on it here. Let me see here, the American Indian Graduate Center. And so they've got right at the top of their page, when you click that, spring scholarships available now, apply today. So there's scholarships that the American Indian Graduate Center has also kind of pulled together. And then the final link there, so there's a ton of links there. Are those all the links? No. Are there other scholarships? Yes. Something that I'll also mention is that sometimes there's some scholarships that are national, which some of these websites that I'm giving you, these are mostly national websites. So that could mean that students from across the country could be applying for those scholarships. But there also sometimes are more local scholarships. And as somebody had mentioned earlier, that might even be your kind of tribal scholarships. Those are kind of considered more local. Why? Because not everybody in the country is going to apply for those. Maybe just the students who are from that specific tribal background will be applying for that. So understanding kind of national scholarships and local scholarships, and that there's benefits to kind of both. And so speaking of kind of a local scholarship, I'll mention to you the Marsha Morgan Scholarship. Why do I mention it to you? Because I consider it a local scholarship because it's really just for students who have participated in early academic outreach programs. If I'm not mistaken, probably on an annual basis, we have about 40 students who are coming into the University of Arizona that have gone through EAO programs. If I'm not mistaken, I think last year, Carol might have mentioned to me that we had about 9 different students that came in from NASEP into the University of Arizona. We also have another program called MESA where we get another about 25 students. And then we have some other programs where we get a few students every year. But this is the chance, if you're interested in coming to the University of Arizona, this is a scholarship where you have a great opportunity because of the fact that you are one of maybe 40, maybe 50 students who can apply for this scholarship. And so if we're giving out 6 scholarships, 6 out of 50 is really kind of, you've got a great chance. And one of the things that we're seeing right now because of COVID is that students really have been challenged at completing scholarship applications. Just because of everything that's happened, we're trying to get back to normal, but not, what we're seeing is that not a lot of students are filling out scholarship applications. So this is another way to set yourself apart, right? And to devote some time to it, similar almost to the, which we know not all students were able to do the college level research poster. But this is another way that if you set some additional time aside and you focus on this can sometimes bring you opportunities. It can bring you resources to help you to fund your education. So that's really important. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and show you a little bit about the Marsha Morgan Scholarship. First off, I'm here at the American Indian Graduate Center website, which I had kind of pulled up. And you'll see right there on the front page, spring scholarships available. So definitely want to make sure that you kind of see that. I want to just kind of quickly show you a couple of these other sites. This is the College Board website. Once you kind of create an account, then that gets you in there and you can kind of start to look for scholarships. This is the CapEx scholarship website. This was previously called Project or College Greenlight. And so you can see search scholarships for college students. And you can see here on the left-hand side, they're asking what's your gender, what's your ethnicity, what's your level of current enrollment. I'm a high school senior, I can put down. Am I first generation? Financial need, LGBTQIA, disability, non-US citizens. So it has some different categories there. And you can see some of the different scholarships that are listed down here. This is before we even kind of start to create our own profile. So, and then finally, this is early academic outreaches page for the Marsha Morgan Scholarship. You'll see here that our application is this Friday. Please, if you're thinking about kind of applying for the scholarship, talk to Carol, Natalia, myself, any of our student staff. Please just let us know, and we'd be glad to kind of help to walk you through this process. I think that even though the deadline is Friday, this is a fairly doable scholarship that can have some great benefits to it as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit view on the scholarship. I could download that and I can kind of print it out myself as well. But what I'm gonna do is kind of focus on, so this is the application. You'll see very minimal information that we need from you, right? We need your name, your high school, your phone number. What program did you participate in? There you would click our Native American Science and Engineering program, and maybe any other program that you may have participated in. You then are asked to do one of the two following options. So you choose one of the two. The first is that you could just provide, this is kind of a more creative response, I would say. Maybe others would not say it that way, but I'll say it kind of that I think it's a little bit more creative. So this is saying use whatever media you prefer. That can be, that could include, but is not limited to, a written essay. It could be a poem. It could be a video. It could be audio of spoken word. It could be a video presentation, a song, a digital, some type of digital storytelling. And what we're asking you to do in this kind of more creative category is to tell us about your life path. Remember, I mentioned this earlier. The path should include where you are coming from, where you are now, and where you are going. You're free to interpret this however you want, but please keep in mind that the purpose is to give us an insight into who you are and why you are a good candidate for this award. So that's the first thing that you could do. You could decide that's the one that sounds great to me. You create something that if it's like a video, then it's limited to 3 to 5 minutes, and you're all set and you're all done. If it's something that's written, it's 1,000 words, which 1,000 words isn't too much, but we could always help you with that. You may say to yourself, not exactly wanting to do that one. I've heard Rudy rap and it's not that great. So he shouldn't turn in a rap about why people should invest in his education. So if that was the case for me, then I might say, well, I better instead provide short essay responses. These short essay responses are just 250 words, which isn't that much, which sometimes can be a challenge. If you have a lot to say on the topic, you might have to kind of limit it to 250 words. But these are the 4 responses that we ask you to write on. So you have to write on all 4 of these. The first is, what are your short and long-term goals? So you just tell us a little bit about what you hope to be doing in the future, and if there's any short-term goals that you have kind of right now in front of you. The second thing that you can talk about is, outside of classwork, what has prepared you most for college? So not just focused on your time in the classroom, in your high school classes, but outside of that, what has prepared you most for college? For all of you, you've decided to spend your summer in a program called NASEP. And so that's out of school time. You could talk about that. you could talk about other things. That's all up to you and to the experiences that you have. The third question, discuss a significant challenge you have faced and describe how you overcame it. All of us face challenges. And so this is an opportunity to talk about a challenge that you've encountered and how you've overcome the challenge or how you're working to overcome a challenge, because sometimes challenges can take us a while to kind of overcome. And finally, the last question is, what role did the program you check marked above play in your path to college? So that's just, again, talking about how did NASEP help you to think about or plan for college? And so you would choose, again, one of these two options. It could be kind of this creative option where you could do something that didn't have to be written. It could be a video, it could be a poem, it could be spoken word, it could be singing a song, it could be one of those raps that I mentioned earlier, or you could decide, I'm not going to do the creative option. I just want to write about my experiences. And I want to write some short responses, which is great because these are just 250 words. And you can kind of do one of these or you do all 4 of those questions and you submit those to us by Friday at 5 o'clock. So I want to make sure that we realize too that I know that some people, so I'm going to kind of, I think, stop sharing here. Let me see if I can do that. Maybe if by show of hands, can you remind me how many of you are currently juniors in high school? Great, Natasha's a junior. Any other juniors by chance? And then current seniors? Great, and Taylor's also a junior. Thank you for that, Taylor. And then for, I saw hands kind of go up, which is good. So for seniors, if you're looking at the University of Arizona, of course, the Marsha Morgan Scholarship is a great scholarship to apply to. If you're currently a junior, I want you to keep this in mind for next year, because if you decide that you're going to apply to the University of Arizona, it's a great scholarship opportunity for you. Not only that, but all of those scholarship search engines that I showed you, as juniors, you can explore them. I feel like most of the scholarships are going to ask you to be a senior in high school before you apply, but there are some scholarships that will allow you to apply earlier. So, so you can visit those sites. If you're a junior, I almost recommend that you almost create a folder where you print out different scholarship opportunities, and you even kind of create that folder by like the calendar dates. And you could say to yourself like, oh, I've just found a scholarship. That's the Marsha Morgan Scholarship. It looks like that one is due in April. So I'm gonna put that in the April tab. And now I know that I can apply for that next year during my senior year. And I've got the website there. I can go back to it if I have a question. I'm gonna put a note down that Carol and Rudy can kind of answer any questions I might have. But you can start to kind of put together that if you're a junior. So, so for those of you that are juniors, for those of you that are seniors, some different opportunities there. Let's see here. Oh, so it looks like there was a NASEP alumni on the AIGCS page, which that one was the very, let me pull that up there and I'll quickly share my screen again. So hopefully my screen is sharing. And then which was it at the very bottom?
Keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. I think there was like a it was like a May highlight thing that was on there. Oh, students of the month. That was the one. So Rachel Holiday, the one on the left.
Great. So Rachel now is in her graduate program, but a former NASEP student. So that's awesome that she's kind of being recognized in that way. Yeah, and so I'll just mention that recently I had an opportunity to meet with a couple of donors. I met with them on Thursday, and I had some students join me. They were a couple of NASEP students. There were a couple of students from our MESA program, and then a couple of students from our College Academy for Parents program. Some different initiatives in our office. And it was just really cool that these donors that were wanting to meet students that they had kind of invested in. And the students had a chance to kind of stop by. They had great stories to share about who they are and what they're studying. Some of the students have aspirations of kind of going out of state to maybe medical school. Some students have aspirations to working out of state. Other students had aspirations that they would share where they were wanting to kind of stay within the state of Arizona. Some students wanting to be sure that they were somehow working to kind of give back to their community. So these scholarships, one of the things that I like to emphasize with the scholarships is that scholarships are people or organizations that are looking to make an investment in others because they know that by helping others, we're helping ourselves, right? We're helping everybody. We're helping everybody to kind of rise. And so I think it's always good too, as we're applying to these things, to just kind of keep that in mind. And what I oftentimes urge students to do, and urge myself to do too, is to think about, like, are there ways that I could kind of give back to the community? And that might not be a scholarship right now for you all, right? I'm not asking you to kind of set up a scholarship, but it could be that you're helping somebody in your community. It could be that you do that later as you go into a field and you speak up for the needs of others. So something that we focus on a lot in our office is, how do we develop equity? How do we make situations more equitable for everybody in the future? And so I think that these people who are giving scholarships sometimes are doing that, they're trying to find a way to give back. And hopefully that urges us to kind of think, how do we pay it forward? How do we continue to kind of pay those things back? With that, I'm gonna pause there and see if there's kind of questions that folks might have about any of those scholarship search engines, which I don't know if I'll be able to answer all of them, but I would love to still hear your question. Or if you have questions specifically about the Marsha Morgan Scholarship. I also will mention that Carol was great about putting just another resource onto the, or two more resources, if I'm not mistaken, onto the chat. If you didn't get a chance to see those, please feel free to kind of take a look at those as well. Any other questions? There's no other questions. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back over to Natalia.
Thank you, Rudy, for giving us that really informative, giving us really a lot of information on scholarships. That's some of the stuff I didn't even know. And so really appreciate it. And it's always good and thank you for taking time to talk with us. And yeah, the students, are there any other questions that you want to ask in regards to scholarships, financial aid? Because this is the time to do it. We're wrapping up our workshop sessions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And yeah.
I'll point out something about the other resource that I shared. The NASEP one is on the NASEP resources page. And so it's not an exhaustive list by any means of scholarships that are available, but it can certainly start you on your search. Being connected to the university has allowed us to receive emails and stuff from varying departments and people who promote different things. And so is my audio okay? I hear like a popping sound on my end. It's okay, okay. And so here's a list of different scholarships that we have on the website, and you're able to filter them down by certain things. So like, for instance, ones that are specific to like tribal members or open to anybody who is a tribal member. Here are a couple here. Oh, I have the Gilman there as well, so I can link you there. But here's a couple, or if you're someone who's interested in like the health sciences, you can filter by some scholarships that focus on that. We have a listing here also that lists some internships that could be more applicable to people who are in their undergraduate career, and also like K-12 programs. So for instance, those of you who are still juniors and maybe looking for some opportunities for the summer, there's a couple here. And then the other link is the link to the Office of Navajo Nation Scholarships and Financial Aid. And so they list a couple of other sources of funding that may be of interest to students. So yeah, I think that hopefully we set you on a pretty good start for you to start your scholarship search, and for you to be able to formulate a plan of action on how you want to tackle these things. Again, Natalia, myself, and our undergraduate student staff like Kiara and Makayla are available to provide any feedback if you're formulating your personal statements and things like that, and are like, I want a second pair of eyes to be able to strengthen it, then we're available. So you may also contact us in regards to those as well. And I think that Kiara and Makayla have done a good job of trying to post scholarships that they see that could be, that you all could be eligible to apply for in the opportunities portion of Slack. So if you haven't already, check that out. And then Katie put in the chat that she's available, and she also put her email in if you would like to contact her. Thank you, Katie. All right, Natalia.
All righty, I think thank you, Carol. I think I have a delay. So it's like I start talking because it sounds like it finishes. So my apologies for that. And so this has been a really informative workshop, and I would like you all to unmute and give our presenters, Kiara, Makayla, and Katie, a big round of applause, some big loud thank yous, because they were really great enough to share their time and to gather this information for you so you can broaden your horizons through scholarship, through education, through opportunities for women in STEM. And yeah, so let's unmute and give a round of applause for everyone.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so students, you can be dismissed, and presenters, I'd like for you to stay on after the students have left. So thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Autumn.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, congrats.